My name is Mackenzie McCubbins, and this is my presentation on the Supreme Court's case, the Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. What happened in this case? So, in July of 2012, Charlie Craig and David Mullins, they went to Masterpiece Cake Shop in Lakewood, Colorado, and requested that the owner, Jack C. Phillips, design and create a cake for their wedding. Phillips ended up declining to do so on the grounds that he does not create wedding cakes for same-sex weddings because of his religious beliefs. Phillips believes that decorating cakes is a form of art through which he can honor God, and he thought that it would displease God to create cakes for same-sex marriages. Craig and Mullins, after hearing this, filed charges of discrimination with the Colorado Civil Rights Division, alleging discrimination based on sexual orientation under the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. The division issued a notice finding probable cause that they were discriminated against. Craig and Mullins filed a formal complaint with the Office of Administrative Courts alleging that Masterpiece Cake Shop discriminated against them and a place of public accommodation in violation of the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. The administrative law judge issued a written order finding in favor of Craig and Mullins. This was affirmed by the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. On appeal, the Colorado Court of Appeals subsequently affirmed the commission's ruling, and then the Supreme Court, after hearing this, Masterpiece Cake Shop, or Phillips, ended up taking his case to the Supreme Court. Why did this case make it to the Supreme Court? Well, the court was supposed to answer, does the application of Colorado's public accommodations law to compel a cake maker to make a cake that violates his religious beliefs violate the free exercise clauses of the First Amendment? And this is an important question to answer, right? Like how much weight does freedom of expression hold when compared to anti-discrimination laws? You know, it was a good question. So, what does the court decide? The court, in a 7-2 decision, reversed the commission's ruling. They held that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission's conduct in evaluating a cake shop owner's reasonings for declining to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple violated the free exercise clause. And down here, you'll notice which justices approved it, and the ones that are faded out are the ones who voted against it. Now, you'll notice that this isn't exactly answering our previous question. And I think there's a couple reasons that the court decided to approach this case in the way that they did, but I'll get into that later. Let me just go ahead and explain the reasoning to you guys for why the court voted the way that it did. The court concluded that the commission's actions violated the state's duty under the First Amendment to remain neutral, pretty much, not to use hostility towards religion or a religious viewpoint as a basis for laws or regulations. Under the facts of this case, the court determined that Phillips' religious justification for his refusal to serve Craig and Mullins was not afforded the neutral treatment mandated by the Free Exercise Clause. In the case, it was stated that the commission did have some hostile remarks towards Phillips, but those weren't the only thing used. Apparently, the commission had found 3 other cases that were very similar to this one, but they ruled completely in different ways, right? So previously there were 3 other cases in which a baker again refused to bake a cake. But in this case, instead of refusing to bake a cake for a same-sex couple, say they refused to make a cake that had degrading remarks on it about gay people. So, you know, looking at how inconsistently the court ruled, one could see perhaps why the court ruled in the way they did. They thought the commission was not remaining neutral and that they were maybe being biased against Phillips' religious beliefs. by not maybe respecting them as much as the other people who had brought their case before them with the refusing to make their cake. I found one dissenting opinion by the two justices who didn't vote with the majority. Uh, they argued that neither the commission's comments regarding Philip's religious views nor its alleged um, treatment of bakers objecting to making cakes with anti-gay messages justified ruling in favor of Phillips. I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I totally agree with this, but then again, maybe one could agree with this. My main thing with it is if the court, I think it kind of does matter, right? I would like to see the court being as consistent as possible, but maybe then it's a problem with the court rather than this policy. So let's talk about the significance of this case, or in my opinion, the lack thereof. There were so many different ways the court could have ruled this and made he made a powerful, strong statement going for one way or the other, like either, hey, free expression can even triumph over anti-discrimination laws, or freedom of expression. You know, you can't force a baker to make you a cake if it says something that they don't like. They could have done compelled association. You know, should Phillips be forced to associate with this gay couple when he doesn't, it goes against his religious beliefs? Um, I think the one that I would have been most excited to see was like how the court dealt with discrimination against free expression. I'm really interested to see what the court would favor and see what the court values more as anti-discrimination laws or free expression. And I think that could be really controversial, and I don't think many people would be happy with regardless of what decision they make. But I remember when I was younger hearing about this case way back in 2012, and I did not know anything about politics. I remember thinking it was a big deal, but then they just kind of, it feels like a cop out. Like well, you didn't remain neutral. Like it feels almost as if they're just tiptoeing around the issue, like with what our textbook says, where they're constantly scared to say or do anything in regards to religion. Like they don't want to be around it or deal with it. And, there is some religious values in this case, but there's also dealing with discrimination. And I think this was a really tough case for the court to try to make sense of and work out if they were to go with that route. So I can kind of understand why they didn't, but it is still very disappointing that it feels more like the case was settled on like a technicality. Because what if the commission was neutral? What if they didn't make those comments, and what if there weren't those other three cases? I would be really interested to see how the Supreme Court would make its ruling then. All right, and that's my work cited, but I am curious as to how you guys think about this case. If you guys remember hearing about this case when you were younger, or maybe that's just me. I am a bit older, but yeah. Thanks for watching.